Indonesia, a vast and diverse country of 200 million people that covers an area greater than the whole of Europe. Of all its 17,000 islands, Sulawesi is the most magical. Isolated by deep ocean trenches, it is home to more unique species than any place on Earth. But Sulawesi is under threat.
When you're sitting in Europe in your armchair watching a natural history programme and thinking, I'd like to make a difference, there is a way you can make a real difference. You can come out and join a project like this one and actually help scientists, because without the volunteers this whole project wouldn't run.
Volunteers from around the world are working alongside leading scientists to help conserve the rainforest of Sulawesi and the pristine coral reefs surrounding the paradise island of Hoga. In this programme,
there's an evil spirit that lives down that hole.
Life in a sea gypsy village for our volunteers as they learn to live with the Bajau people.
I'm not the most stable of people and I have 2 left feet.
Will they be able to cope with this major culture shock?
It made me hate the people around here for a while.
In the middle of one of the remotest regions on Earth is the paradise island of Hoga, home to Operation Wallacea's Marine Research Centre. 100 volunteer conservationists are here to help carry out a number of vital marine and community-based projects in order to protect the coral reefs. This morning, Dan Walsh and Katie Spencer-Smith are on their way to the real water world of Sampella. For the next 4 days, they'll live and breathe the sea gypsy life. Built on coral platforms in the 1940s, 300 yards off the coast of neighbouring Kaladupa Island, this stilted village is home to over 1,500 Bajau sea gypsies.
The Bajau, I mean, it's unbelievable. They're just so friendly and warm. I mean, when you arrive, everyone greets you and they're just so friendly.
The project leader in Sampella is Chris Majors.
The volunteers are here for a very short period of time. It's usually just 3 or 4 days. I'm trying to expose them to as much of the things that Bajau people do in their day-to-day lives, and that this will give them some insight into how people live on this side of the world, and in particular how the Bajau people live.
Trying not to fall off one of the many rickety bridges crisscrossing the village is 20-year-old Anna Marin Ashford.
I think if you're going to come to somewhere as far-flung as Indonesia, you really want to meet the people. And just the idea of a village on stilts out in the sea, I guess, came across as quite a romantic idea to me and just fascinating.
As recently as 50 years ago, many of the people that now live in this village were living a semi-nomadic existence in canoes not much larger than the canoe we're in right now. They were very mobile. They lived in boats. Their whole families lived in a large canoe. And according to the seasons, they would move around and look for lobster and fish. But they would come back to places such as these where they're protected during the monsoons, and also where they have known freshwater sources. So there would be this pattern of movement where they would collect in large numbers their boats, and then during the non-monsoon season disperse into smaller groups of maybe 2, 3, 4 boats when they went to the outer reefs.
The Bajau people literally spend their whole lives at sea. They're part of a huge and proud seafaring nation living all over the Philippines, Indonesia and Malaysia. The volunteers have to get used to sea village life as quickly as possible.
Oh yeah, which one? Here, this one here. Okay. It's just dodgy.
Right, well,
scaling.
this is not to scale, is it?
No, it's not. This is the one to scale. So this is the one we're measuring now. Right. We're basically mapping the area. Already we've got a draft map that's been done and a census of the whole of Sampella, so we know the number of people in each family, how many families live in one house, those kind of details, just so we can get a good overview of the shape, structure, population of Sampala.
Anna, you have to tell me the porch bit first because they want us to do porches and houses. Two for the back porch.
You get to see all the different houses, all the different people, how they live, how they hang out.
I think Chris is quite keen that we have good knowledge of Sampala and its people just before we can actually do any more work, so it just forms a groundwork. It's just a piece of information really, it's good to know.
But this involves crossing some of the dodgiest walkways in town.
I'm not the most stable of people and I have 2 left feet, so I haven't fallen in yet, so that's all good. And the little kids help me as well, so that's not a problem.
The trick is to keep moving and watch out for unexpected wobbly bits.
It's so important to actually understand the people here, the culture. It's so different to anything we know and can really understand. And Chris has been here for 5 years. He's married to one of the women here, has a child here. And he says it's only now that he's beginning to feel truly integrated. And I think when you can kind of respond to a community to that level, it's only then that you can actually design conservation programs and initiatives that are going to have any hope of working.
Yellowfin tuna going all the way to Japan for sushi. Da kilo ma wanchi. They can 3,500 a kilo. Da na kilo iru. Kira. He reckons there's about 50 kilos of fish there. So if he took that up to Wanchi, he'd get 175,000 rupees for that fish.
About £15 sterling, which will buy you about 2 kilos in the local supermarket.
The volunteers soon encounter one of the less attractive aspects of Bajau life. A giant turtle is trapped in a rock pool under one of the huts.
I still want to know how long it's been here though, because didn't they say they said 2 months?
Yeah, 10 days we've had it. We found a turtle in a pit of coral. It's a huge, big green turtle.
Kapan makan?
They say they're going to eat it, but when you ask them when they're going to eat it, they don't know.
Many turtles are sold on the black market for huge profits and can end up as gaudy wall hangings.
I don't know if it will survive that long with this little water.
They're keeping a baby one there next door, which we saw him feeding this morning. Just throw them all in there.
It made me hate the people around here for a while, and I know that's awful because, you know, that's what they do, and in a sense it's not their fault. You know, it's there were many turtles in the sea and they could take a couple, you know, back in the day, but it's just that now there aren't that many, and they say there are loads. I don't know, it's just, I find it horrible because I'd never do that to an animal, but they just don't have the same relationship with animals that Europeans have.
But Dan Walsh sees things differently.
A lot of the volunteers come over here and try and rally around telling you how much they want to conserve certain species and things when they don't really have a clue about what's going on over here. They come here for maybe 2 weeks, and I mean, I don't really know what's going on either, but you know, you've got to have an open mind about these things, and that's the sort of thing that I'm interested in. I want to see how these people react to the coral reefs, and then if there is room for us to work together rather than just come over here and tell them what to do, because that's just not going to accomplish anything. We need to work together with these people, and they are very open-minded and they're very friendly, so I think we can accomplish a lot if we work that way.
The volunteers go to the nearby island of Kaladupa to help gather food and firewood. There's a right way and a wrong way to leave this boat. Their first job is to collect some pandanus leaves, which can be woven together to make bed mats.
We kind of plunge into their culture and kind of experience as much as possible. So anything that they do, we should do as well.
You can never get it in the same spot.
Keep getting loads of splinters stuck in my little splinters like that. So when you're like chopping and stuff, the little they're on the ends of the leaves, and they just kind of stick into you and stuff.
I've got scratches all over my legs, and I think I've scratched my whole tan off, which was minimal anyway.
One of the things we encourage volunteers to do when they come over to Sampella is to interact with the local people and to get involved in things that the local people will do themselves on a day-to-day basis. I'm a firm believer that if we have long-term goals to work with this community on environmental issues, on conservation issues, that those goals have to be based upon a sound understanding of the people, in this case the Badjo, and that understanding is gained through interaction.
Next on the list is cassava, a root crop which can be ground up and baked to make the Badjo equivalent of bread.
Look at that one. I think that's the best one.
I think it's really important that you actually do integrate yourself into communities and see how they work.
21-year-old Emily Caruso is half Italian and has brought a touch of Venice to the canals of Sampella. When they get back to the village, there's no shortage of helpers to unload the piles of leaves, which in turn will be made into a mattress. In part 2, spearing lunch with the local Badjo boys. Why Dan's bouncing up and down? And a visit to the local witch doctor.
The child's got a temperature, which the witch doctor said can only be cured by performing kuta.
That's after the break. A group of Operation Wallacea volunteers is finding out what life is like with the Badjo sea gypsies of Sampella village in Indonesia. Carrying out community projects in a real water world built on stilts. After spending their first noisy night in Badjo land, Dan and Katie are taking the shortcut to work. They're to go on a fishing survey, observing local fishermen on the open sea and recording the morning's catch.
The Badjo, their life revolves around fishing, so they've been fishing off the reef for almost all the time they've been here, but no one actually knows the kind of fish that they fish and how much they are taking. The initiative is to try and record the different types of fish that they're taking in and numbers and sizes of fish, just to kind of get a bit of an overall view of how the Badjo are controlling their fishing themselves, and then maybe we can actually see what's happening with the corals from our perspective as well. I used to buy baby octopuses from the Chinese supermarket and eat them whole.
How'd you cook it?
Just put it in a pan.
You're such a liar.
I'm not a liar. Don't do this.
In 2000, the Badjo established a no-fishing zone off the shore of Hoga Island, marking the event with a special ceremony that hadn't been performed for 50 years.
In the context of this community, that was a huge step. You can talk to fishermen, particularly elderly fishermen in the village, and find that fish resources have declined dramatically. And that's happened mostly over the last 20 years or so. And stocks of sea cucumbers and many fish species, particularly associated with the coral reefs, have declined. And so what was heavily talked about in the village was the need to establish a small nursery area around which many of these fish stocks would have a chance to recover and hopefully disperse into other reef areas that continue to be fished. So this will ultimately benefit the fishing people from this village.
The Bajau are the fish experts of Indonesia, and mealtimes in Sampella are a real delight.
Food in Sampella is the best food in the whole of Indonesia. It's amazing. One of the specialities of the village is raw parrotfish marinated in lemon and lime with cassava bread. It's just the most succulent fish you've ever eaten in your life. I just couldn't believe it. It was absolutely delicious. So I reckon when I get back to Manchester, I'm going to go down to the Arndale Centre and see if they can get me a parrotfish.
After lunch, Emily and Anna Maron try their hand at weaving.
These are the pandang leaves that they collected yesterday, and they remove the serrated edges with a knife, and then they roll them, and these are left out to dry. And after 3 or 4 days of drying, they can then be woven into mats. The Bajau people don't use conventional mattresses like we do, and they sleep on mats, and so every couple of months they'll change them over and replace them.
You tie two together each time and kind of form a corner and then weave it in and then just basically fold over like this, which is the easy part. I can do this part, it's just actually kind of connecting it together or starting it again. Yeah, it's taking me a lot longer than it would then. I'm sure they're getting really impatient with this.
We look at things that the people are already making or already doing. We're not trying to introduce them to new sorts of souvenir ornament making. The mats is something that a lot of the volunteers decide they like and they take back.
They're telling me that I'm picking it up fast, but I think they're just being kind.
Dan and Katie are chopping and grating their way through a mountain of cassava.
I've already managed to cut my left hand, which is pretty hard seeing as I'm using my right hand to actually mash the stuff up. But this guy keeps just rubbing his hands over it and he's not even... It's really starting to annoy me because he's not even cut himself once.
One of the staple dietary components of the Bajau people is called kaswami, or what the local people call kukus. And yesterday a group of volunteers collected cassava, the cassava root, which is firstly grated and then pressed to remove the water and then baked and develops into a very starchy bread-like component.
Didn't realise there was such work involved. Everything's done in such a short space of time and things, and everyone seems to like hurry around and do things really quickly. But then again, there's like no one wears watches and things, and no one has any sense of time, and none of the young children seem to have any idea how old they are and things. So I don't think they celebrate birthdays or anything like that. But the people just seem to just do so much, and it's just such a wonderful environment to be in.
The cassava bread is ready. Just peel off the pandanus leaf wrapper, stand for 5 minutes, and taste.
Bagus.
Chris has heard that the village witch doctor is performing a healing ritual and has gone to investigate. En route, he passes a group of anxious-looking neighbours.
There's an evil spirit that lives down that hole. It's in the form of a squid. They're always careful when they're around here. Angin nanti di dia itu panas.
Panas sama seorang panas, ngeri suruh panas.
So the child's got a temperature, and so in order, the temperature is caused by a spirit, which the witch doctor said can only be cured by performing kuta. There's 5 different types of ceremonies that they can perform for sick people, depending on what the witch doctor says is the problem with the illness, which type of spirit is causing the problem. And this child was diagnosed as requiring a ceremony called kuta. Kuta. And so they've just performed kuta to try and make this child better. I've obviously been here a long time, but even now I feel that there are things that I'm learning. Every month, every week, there are new things that I pick up about this community, and it's through that interaction that the volunteers are now experiencing that I think you actually develop relationships, you develop greater understanding of the local people, and this is what will help us in the long term to be able to develop meaningful relationships that we can eventually start to address issues such as the environmental concerns, conservation concerns that Operation Wallacea is specifically interested in.
You know, you get this sort of anthropology view of, oh, I'm going to watch them all from the outside and wow, what an amazing people. And actually we've just been living with them and they're just like us. They're exactly like us. They've got the same emotions, the same everything. They're human beings, and that's been the most amazing experience for me, I guess. Just realizing how everyone tries to live the same way and tries to do the same things.
For many of the volunteers, a stay in Sampella is the highlight of their stay in Indonesia. Some have been known to take back an oar, a straw hat, even a 6-foot spear gun as a souvenir. But the best keepsake has to be the warmth and openness of the Bajau people themselves. Join the volunteer conservationists of Operation Wallacea again next time as they continue their mission of saving paradise.